Welcome back, everybody. So today I'm going to be doing a 10 things I wish I knew during my spiritual awakening, because if I knew these things when I was first waking up, they would have made life so much easier. So prefacing this by saying that a spiritual awakening is a constant process. I still do not know everything. I am still going through it. This is just me sharing, and hopefully you find these useful if you are finding yourself going through your spiritual awakening. Okay. Number one is how to ground. So when you're first waking up, or when I was first waking up, you are suddenly open to all these new energies. You're suddenly open to all these new ideas, and you are ascending, right? The energy is going up. You are leveling up through your awakening. Now, it's important that you also know how to ground. How do you bring that energy back down? How do you get back in your body? Because a lot of the time I was walking around with anxiety. I was walking around with just a lot of thoughts being up in my head. My energy felt all over the place, right? So what is grounding? The biggest example that I heard, that I was told, that I was taught was pretend that you're a tree and imagine these roots coming down from your feet into the earth. And I would do that, right? I'd be like, okay, yeah, like I'm pretending that I'm a tree. I'm seeing these roots. And I thought I was grounded, but nada. Zip, zero, goose eggs. No, that did not work for me. I learned that I was more of a feeler. I could visualize, but I didn't feel grounded. I didn't feel grounded in any way. So what worked for me, and some examples that I found much later after I was still walking around ungrounded, was yoga really helps. Dropping down into child's pose, anything that puts you on the ground, puts your body on the ground, connected to the earth. Walking around barefoot in the forest, walking around barefoot in general, stepping on grass, things like that really helped to ground my energy and bring me back into my body. Another example that really helped me was imagining my feet dug into the sand. If you've ever been buried in the sand or just kind of like stuck your feet in there, that is a really good example of what feeling grounded is like. Handling any kind of plants, putting your hands in soil, working in the dirt. A really good telltale sign that you're grounded is that you feel shorter, is that you feel less like all up in your head. You feel more solid. Pretty much anything that's gonna have you feeling grounded, feeling present, less in your head, more in your body. All right, well, I really wasn't prepared for number two, which is the surfacing and resurfacing of your traumas, repressed memories, and uncomfortable moments. So what do I mean by that? Suddenly, everything that you ever suppressed, any kind of hurts, any kind of angers, anything that makes you feel uncomfortable, those embarrassing moments you had years ago where you probably like fell or tripped in school and people laughed at you and you pretended to play it off cool, but really you were just like, ugh. Yeah, that's gonna come to the forefront. The reason it's coming to the forefront, not for me to run away and beat myself up again, it's for me to now look at it from a different perspective. When you're awakening, you're suddenly learning all these new perspectives, right? You're learning all these new philosophies, these new ways of living, these new ways of seeing things. And now it's time to apply those perspectives to all these memories that you never had a chance to because you shoved them down, or because you were so stuck in the present of the pain in that moment. Pretty much it's asking you to shed the heavy emotions because you can't take those with you on your awakening. We're moving up, right? You can't take anything with you that's going to be bringing you down or holding you back. And those are going to be those heavy emotions. Let's move on to number three. What it means to do the work, or as the community calls it, shadow work. And you'll see this all over in like New Age philosophies and all sorts, is shadow work, shadow work, shadow work. What is shadow work? It's facing your traumas head on. It's facing the ugly parts of you that you don't want to admit that you have, but you know that they're there. All the time, you'll see, do the work, shadow work. Now, what I wish I knew was how. Somebody give me an example. because they say it all the time and they don't actually explain how the hell do I approach my stuff, because not all of us have a therapist. If you have a therapist, this is a really, really good way of doing shadow work. However, for those of us who don't, here are some really good examples that worked for me. A, crying is a really good full body workout for one, and B is a really good way to just release, because you are actually physically releasing out of your body. You are releasing tension, you are releasing water. Just the act of crying is very purifying and purging. So if you ever feel like you need a good cry, do yourself a favor, have that good cry. Sometimes you just don't have the tears to cry, is journaling. Now, journaling can come across in so many different ways, but what I really like to do for me, with setting a 5-minute timer and writing in my journal and starting off with, what am I feeling right now? And go from there. What am I feeling? I am feeling frustrated because I had a hard day at work. Okay, well, why am I feeling this? I was busy thinking about other stuff, and so like my work was suffering because of it. Okay, well, why am I so busy focusing on you just kind of like dissect it from there. And eventually you do get to the root of whatever's bothering you, and you start to understand why you are feeling this way, and eventually, you know, that could cause you to cry. Win-win in my book. Okay, so that brings me to number 4, which is losing friends and gaining some unexpected ones. So I don't think I would have been prepared for this at all, even if I knew that it was coming, because this was the one that kind of sucked the most, was losing a lot of people who I thought would support me, who I thought would understand the path that I'm on. And, you know, looking back, the big picture was that I was being redirected towards people who were more aligned with my path, people who were more aligned with this world that I was stepping into, people who were more aligned with the values that I was beginning to grow into. For me, it felt a little extreme, because all these people who just like turned their back on me, I thought that I was just going to be an outcast forever at that point. Like, okay, I'm just going to be a loner. I'm just going to do my thing. I'm going to live the rest of my life alone and misunderstood. However, I was so like pleasantly surprised over and over again with the people who just crossed my path, and people who came back from my past who also were on similar paths. Like, they would just pop up in my life out of nowhere now that we shared the same values. Looking back, I'm so glad that I was moved away from people who didn't exactly like fuel me with love or support or joy or energy, and I was realigned towards people who really believed in my truth and who shared a similar truth. You know, I wouldn't trade that for the world. All right, hopping into number 5. So it would have really helped had I known that whenever I was alone, I wasn't actually alone. That can be taken 2 different ways. Learning and realizing that even in my most lonely moments, even in the moments where I thought that nobody on this earth could understand me, that I still had support around me. You have your spirit, your angels, your ancestors, your guides, your loved ones. They're always beside you and they're always guiding you. This is one of the most important things that I would say to keep in mind, is that you really are never going through it alone. Even if you're physically alone, energetically, you're not going to be alone. You're going to be supported and you're going to be loved. And that leads me into the signs, be it numbers, be it songs, animals around you, people walking by saying certain things that resonate with you. These are all signs you're always being supported from all around. Also, what I wish I knew, I would get readings from everybody because I did not know what I was going through. I didn't know where my life is going. Where am I headed? Every choice that I would make, I would second guess and I would question and I would wonder, is this the right choice? No. I need to check with the cards. I need to check with the reader. I need to check. I went through moments where I would literally ask the same question to 3 different psychics or whoever, and they would all come back with like similar yet different answers, and it would just confuse me further. I learned that I gained more growth and more confidence by trusting my own choices, because you really do feel it in your gut what's good for you, what excites you, what brings you happiness, what brings you joy, what inspires you. It's okay to get readings from everyone every now and then. It's okay to, get a second opinion. But when you are constantly second guessing your own path and giving that energy away for more people to make that choice for you, it's going to throw you off track. Be solid in yourself. And this goes back to being grounded. It's important to ground into yourself and regain the power of your own intuition, because you always innately know within where you need to go. That leads me into number 7, which is, if it doesn't resonate, don't make it resonate. If what you hear from a psychic, a medium, a spiritual teacher, a spiritual handbook, if what you hear isn't resonating, don't change your story to fit someone else's narrative. And people encounter this all the time. Here's an example. I was going through a really hard time through my awakening, and I had no clue what was going on. And so, I went to go ask for some help. And my help told me that I was dabbling in some dark stuff, and that I had opened a portal or something weird like that. I sat there dumbfounded. Here's where I'm trying to prove the point. I wasn't doing anything like that, right? The most that I did was probably spray some lavender mist in my room. And so now, even though I hadn't dabbled in anything weird, now I was trying to make it fit their story. Now I was thinking, what if the lavender mist caused me to open some vortex and some aliens came through or whatever? It wasn't resonating. But I was trying to make it resonate to their story. Now I was second guessing myself. It's important to pay attention to what you're feeling in your body. If it's not making any sense, if it's causing anxiety or frustration, it's not your truth. And it's kind of a hard feeling to explain because it feels different for everybody. For me, things that don't resonate just sound flat. For me, if you're playing piano and you play a flat note, that's what it sounds like to me. Things that resonate sound bright. They make sense with your story. Keep in mind. Well, that brings me to number 8, which is, I wish I knew that I didn't need to prove myself. You don't need to prove yourself to anybody. I find that is very common with people who are spiritual, is the need to prove themselves, is the need to show, I'm spiritual enough, that I understand these philosophies, that I have a more vegan diet than you, that I have more yoga clothes, that I understand all the chakras more. You don't need to outconscious anybody. You don't need to be the best reader out there. You don't need to be the best psychic out there. You just need to be you. The need to prove something just invites the fear of failing, and it invites the fear of frustration. You can't fail when you're being yourself. You are always innately you. And I think even I struggle with this sometimes because I am just a very naturally competitive person. You just need to be you. And I heard this from, I forget who, but it just really resonated for me, is that there's always going to be room for your truth. No matter all these people out there who are already doing the same thing in their own way, only you can do it your way. There's always, always, always going to be room for your truth. That's why you are here on this earth. That's why you are here doing what you're doing. Nobody else can do it the way that you can. So that being said, more than likely you're going to be surrounded by people who don't understand what you're going through, who don't understand what you're experiencing. That's okay. This is an experience for you. This is your experience. This is your path. It doesn't always necessarily have to be shared with others. I really did struggle with that initially because, I was growing all these abilities and I was having all these experiences, and I wanted to share that with others who, weren't necessarily willing to listen or open-minded about it. Maybe sometimes you'll come across skeptics or people with their own deeply rooted beliefs. It's all okay, right? But you don't have to prove yourself to those people. It's not your job to prove anything to anybody. And I'm always going to come back to that. Number 9, don't care what others think. Easier said than done. The easiest way to do this, well, it's not easy. I take that back. Best way that I understood how to do this was less on others, more on yourself. Switch the focus. If you feel like you are so focused on what others are going to think or how others are going to react, if you're trying to control how other people see you or how other people are going to react to you, you can just give up now, because that's never going to happen. People are always going to have their own opinions about everyone else. Do your own thing. Change your focus. Less on the others, more on yourself. Because the more you focus on yourself, the more you're going to grow. Whenever you care about what others think, you're giving a little bit of yourself away to those people. The best visual that I can describe here is imagine that you are a little tree or a plant, whatever. And every time you grow a new leaf and you care about what others think, you're giving those leaves away, or you're giving those branches away. What's left for you? How are you going to grow if you're constantly giving pieces of yourself away? You're not going to grow really sturdy, right? So the less you give away to others, the more you have for yourself, the more you can nourish yourself with. 10. Last but not least is the importance of moving your energy out and about. Every time that I took a trip somewhere or broke out of my routine and did something different or did something new or put myself into a new environment, I was able to gain new perspectives. It's kind of a way to kickstart getting out of stagnant energy if you ever feel stuck, if you ever feel like you just can't get the answers that you need. Try moving your energy out to new places, because that way it really shifts your perspective, and more than likely you're going to get the answers that you need. Doesn't matter where you go, doesn't need to be a vacation. It can be just to a different park, to a different city, something different that's going to change your environment. Because whenever things change on the outside, things also change on the inside, and vice versa. That's the 10 things that I wish I knew during my spiritual awakening. These are hopefully things that you will find helpful. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.